I used to think the sound of her keys hitting the kitchen counter meant home. That clatter was the signal that the day was over, that whatever stress I'd carried from work could finally drop. We'd cook something simple, stand too close in our tiny apartment, steal bites from each other's plates. It felt ordinary in the best way, like the start of something permanent. I was 29, she was 27, and for the first time in my life, I wasn't afraid of the word future. I leaned into it, hard. Her name was Claire. We met at a mutual friend's 4th of July barbecue in Pasadena, one of those sunburned afternoons where everyone's drinking cheap beer and pretending they're not sweating. She laughed at something dumb I said about the grill catching fire, and I remember thinking she had a laugh that didn't try to be cute. It was loud, real. We talked about music, about how neither of us wanted kids yet, but didn't rule it out someday, about how Los Angeles felt temporary, even when you'd been there your whole life. By the end of the night, we were sitting on the curb watching fireworks pop over rooftops, knees touching like it was the most natural thing in the world. The relationship didn't explode into intensity right away. It grew. We took our time. 6 months in, we moved into that apartment near Eagle Rock, the one with the cracked tile and the balcony that looked out over a parking lot. We joked about it being our first place, like there would definitely be a second, better one down the line. I bought furniture I never would have bought alone. She hung framed photos. It stopped feeling like a place I slept and started feeling like a life. Claire had a best friend named Megan. They'd known each other since college. Megan was the type who made an impression fast. Tall, sharp eyes, always dressed like she was on her way somewhere more interesting. She worked in marketing, bounced between startups, always had stories about some new office or client. She came over a lot. Sometimes she crashed on our couch after nights out. She called me husband material once, half joking, half not, and Claire beamed when she heard it. I took it as a compliment. Maybe I shouldn't have. There were little things I ignored because they didn't fit the story I wanted. Claire would get weirdly protective of her phone sometimes, turning the screen down when I walked by. She started going out more with Megan, coming home later, smelling like bars I'd never been to. When I asked about her night, she'd answer, but vaguely. Same old, she'd say. You would have hated it. I laughed it off. We didn't need to do everything together. We were solid. That's what I told myself. We talked about buying a house. Not seriously, but enough that it felt real. We spent Sunday mornings scrolling Zillow, making fun of places we couldn't afford. She liked to point out backyards and say things like, "This would be perfect for a dog." I started saving more aggressively. I looked at engagement rings online late at night when she was asleep, the glow of my laptop reflected in the dark window. I imagined proposing somewhere quiet, somewhere that felt like us. I imagined her crying, calling her parents, telling Megan first. The shift, when I look back, didn't happen all at once. It was gradual, like the way you don't notice a crack in the wall until it's too big to ignore. Claire started picking fights over nothing. Dishes in the sink, the way I folded towels. She accused me of being distant when I felt like I was the one trying to hold things together. When I asked what was wrong, she said she didn't know. That scared me more than if she'd had an answer. One Friday night, she told me she was staying at Megan's place after work. Girls' night. I said okay, told her to have fun. I meant it. I stayed in, ordered Thai food, watched a movie I'd already seen. Around midnight, I texted her a heart. She didn't respond. I fell asleep on the couch. The next morning, I woke up to a message from Megan. That alone was strange. We didn't text one-on-one often. It just said, "Hey, are you up?" My stomach tightened in a way I couldn't explain. I replied yes. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again, then nothing. Minutes passed. I stared at my phone, my coffee going cold. Claire came home around 10. She looked exhausted, mascara smudged, hair tangled. She kissed my cheek, dropped the bag, went straight to the shower. I wanted to ask about the night, but something in me hesitated. I told myself not to be paranoid. Megan never followed up. The day moved on. It was Megan who eventually cracked everything open. Not that day, a week later. She asked if we could grab coffee, just the two of us. She said she needed advice about something work-related. I almost said no. It felt off. But I went because I trusted her, because I trusted Claire. We met at a coffee shop near Silver Lake, the kind with concrete floors and too many succulents. Megan was already there, hands wrapped around her cup like she was trying to study herself. She didn't smile when she saw me. That was the second time my stomach dropped. We made small talk. The weather, traffic, nothing work-related came up. She kept looking at the door, then back at me. Finally, she took a breath like she was about to dive underwater. "I don't know how to say this," she said, "and I don't even know if it's my place, but I can't keep pretending everything's normal.
I laughed, because that's what you do when your brain doesn't want to catch up with reality. "You're freaking me out," I said. She didn't laugh back. She looked at me with something like pity, and that's when I knew. Before she even said it, some part of me had already started to brace. "Claire's been lying to you," she said. The coffee shop noise faded. I could see her lips moving, but it felt like I was underwater, sound distorted. I asked her what she meant, even though I was terrified of the answer. Megan told me she'd been watching this happen for months, that Claire had been coming to her, crying, confessing things she didn't know how to undo, that there was someone else, that it wasn't a one-time mistake. She didn't give me all the details right away. She kept saying she was sorry, that she never wanted to be the one to tell me, that she loved us both. I sat there, nodding, trying to keep my face neutral, while everything I thought I knew about my life started to collapse inward. I remember asking one question, my voice steadier than I felt. "Does Claire know you're telling me this?" Megan shook her head. "No, and she'd hate me for it, but you deserve to know." I left the coffee shop without finishing my drink. I don't remember driving home. I just remember sitting in my car in the parking lot, hands gripping the steering wheel, staring at nothing. The apartment we shared felt like a lie waiting for me. The future I'd been building suddenly felt fragile, like it could shatter if I touched it too hard. I didn't confront Claire that day. I needed time to think, to breathe, to figure out what parts of my life were still real. That night, she curled up next to me on the couch, rested her head on my chest like she always did. I held her, my heart pounding, my mind screaming questions I wasn't ready to ask yet. I wondered how long she'd been holding secrets this close. I wondered if I'd ever really known her at all. I didn't sleep that night.
Claire fell asleep almost instantly, breathing slow and even against my chest, like nothing in the world was wrong. I lay there staring at the ceiling, replaying Megan's words over and over until they lost meaning and became noise. My mind kept trying to bargain with reality. Maybe Megan exaggerated. Maybe she misunderstood. Maybe it was already over. I kept reaching for explanations that would let me wake up the next morning and pretend none of it happened. But every time Claire shifted in her sleep, every time her arm tightened around me like muscle memory, I felt this sharp, hollow ache. It was grief mixed with anger, but mostly confusion. I didn't know how you were supposed to act when you knew something like that. Was I supposed to pull away, confront her immediately, gather evidence like some amateur detective? I felt ridiculous for even thinking like that, but my brain was grasping for anything that gave me a sense of control. The next few days felt unreal. We moved through our routines like actors hitting marks. She made coffee, I took out the trash. We talked about work, about a show we were halfway through. I kept studying her face, searching for cracks, signs of guilt. Sometimes I thought I saw it, a hesitation before answering a question, a glance that lingered too long on her phone. Other times she seemed exactly the same, and that almost hurt more. It made me wonder if Megan was wrong, if I was slowly losing my mind. On Tuesday night, Claire mentioned she was meeting Megan after work again. Just drinks. She said it casually, like it was no different than any other night. My chest tightened, but I nodded. "Cool," I said, trying to keep my voice even. "Have fun?" She kissed me before she left, quick and soft, like punctuation. The door closed behind her, and I stood there, listening to her footsteps fade down the hall. I wanted to scream. Instead, I sat on the couch and waited. For what? I didn't know. Proof. A sign. Something to tell me what to do next. Megan texted me later that night. "Are you okay?" That was it. No context, no emojis. Just that question. I stared at my phone for a long time before responding. "I don't know," I typed back. That felt like the most honest answer I could give. She asked if we could talk again. I said yes, but not that night. I needed space. I needed to see Claire come home. I needed to look her in the eye, knowing what I knew. Claire came back around midnight. She seemed tipsy but happy, laughing about something Megan had said. She leaned against the counter, told me I should have come. I smiled, even laughed in the right places, and hated myself for how easy it was to pretend. When she went to bed, I stayed up, scrolling through old photos of us on my phone. Trips to Big Sur, lazy mornings in bed. That night we danced barefoot in the kitchen because a song we loved came on. I kept thinking, if this is all fake, then what's real? The second conversation with Megan happened the following afternoon. We met at a park this time, sat on opposite ends of a picnic table like we were afraid of being seen together. She looked worse than she had at the coffee shop, tired, stressed, like she hadn't been sleeping either. "I didn't want to dump everything on you all at once," she said, "but you need to understand what's actually been going on." I told her to just say it, rip the bandage off. My heart was already bruised. She told me Claire had been seeing someone from her office, a guy named Ryan.
They worked on the same team. It started as lunches, then drinks, then late nights, finishing projects. Megan said Claire swore it wasn't serious at first, that it was just attention, just feeling wanted in a way she couldn't explain. But it didn't stop. It escalated. There were weekends when Claire said she was visiting her sister, but she wasn't. There were nights she said she crashed at Megan's, but Megan hadn't seen her. I felt sick. Not in a dramatic way, just this slow, spreading nausea that made everything feel heavy. I asked Megan how long she'd known. She said months. I asked why she didn't tell me sooner. She looked down at her hands. Because she kept saying she was going to end it, Megan said, and because I didn't want to be the person who blew up your life. That landed hard. Blew up your life. As if my life wasn't already imploding. As if it wasn't already on fire and we were all just standing around watching it burn. I drove home after that and sat in my car again, engine off, hands shaking. I thought about confronting Claire right then, about storming inside and demanding answers, but another part of me wanted to see how far she'd go, how easily she'd keep lying. I hated that part of myself, but it was there. That night I asked her how work was going. She told me about a meeting, complained about a deadline. She mentioned Ryan, casually, like he was just another coworker. My heart pounded so loud I was sure she could hear it. I asked what he was like. She shrugged. Fine, she said. Kind of annoying. The lie was so smooth, so effortless. I felt something in me harden. It wasn't just about the cheating anymore. It was about the ease with which she could look at me and rewrite reality. I started noticing everything after that. The way she angled her phone away from me. The sudden password change on her laptop. The night she seemed distant even when she was physically there. I stopped sleeping in the same bed as her, claiming back pain, stress. She didn't push. That hurt too. One night she came home later than usual, past 1. I was awake, sitting at the kitchen table with a glass of water I hadn't touched. She froze when she saw me, just for a second, enough for me to notice. Everything okay? She asked. I looked at her, really looked at her. The woman I thought I was going to marry. The person I trusted more than anyone else. I wanted her to confess, to just say it, to meet me halfway in the wreckage. Yeah, I said. Just couldn't sleep. She nodded, walked past me, went to bed, and something inside me broke quietly, without ceremony. The next morning Megan sent me a message I wasn't expecting. Claire told me she's thinking about ending things with you, it said. I think she's scared you're starting to suspect. That message lit a fire in me. Not panic, not fear. Anger, sharp and focused. The idea that she might try to control the narrative, to make me the one blindsided and confused while she walked away clean, made my blood boil. I realized then that waiting wasn't protecting me, it was just giving her more time. I decided I would confront her. Not in a fight, not in a screaming match. I wanted the truth, and I wanted it without excuses. I spent the entire day rehearsing what I'd say, imagining different versions of her reaction. Tears, denial, rage, apologies. I didn't know which would hurt more. That evening I told her we needed to talk. She looked nervous but tried to hide it. We sat on the couch, the same spot where we'd planned futures and laughed over dumb shows. I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of everything pressing down on my chest. There's something I need to ask you, I said. And I need you to be honest with me. She nodded, eyes searching my face. Okay. I opened my mouth to speak. But before the words came out, she started crying. And in that moment, before she said a single word, I knew Megan had told me the truth. Her crying caught me off guard.
Not because I didn't expect emotion, but because it felt like she was taking control of the moment before I could even speak. Tears streamed down her face, shoulders shaking, hands covering her mouth like she was trying to hold something in. For a split second, instinct kicked in. I reached toward her without thinking, the way I always did when she was upset. Then I stopped myself halfway. My hand hovered there, useless. I didn't even say anything yet, I said quietly. She shook her head, still crying. I know. I know what this is about. That hurt more than if she'd played dumb. It confirmed everything. I felt my chest tighten, like the air had been sucked out of the room. Okay, I said. My voice sounded far away, even to me. Then tell me. She wiped her face, took a shaky breath, stared at the wall instead of looking at me. Silence stretched between us. The clock above the kitchen ticked louder than it ever had. There's someone else, she finally said. Hearing it out loud was different. It wasn't a suspicion anymore. Wasn't something filtered through Megan's voice. It was real.
It was here. It was sitting on the couch with me. How long? I asked. She hesitated. A few months. I laughed, sharp and humorless. You hesitated. That means it's longer than that. She flinched. I don't know exactly when it crossed a line. That's not what I asked, I said. I could feel anger building, hot and steady. How long have you been lying to me? She whispered a number. 6 months. Half a year. Half a year of planning a future with me while living a second life behind my back. Half a year of looking me in the eye and telling me she loved me. I stood up. I couldn't sit there anymore. My legs felt shaky, like I might collapse if I didn't move. I paced the living room, running a hand through my hair, trying to keep my voice level. Who is he? I asked, even though I already knew. She said his name. Ryan. Hearing it from her mouth made my stomach churn. I asked if she loved him. She said she didn't know. I asked if she loved me. She said yes, immediately, too quickly. That answer felt rehearsed. Do you understand how insane that sounds? I snapped. You love me, but you've been sleeping with someone else for 6 months. She started crying harder, apologizing over and over. She said she felt trapped, that she didn't know how to stop, that it started when she felt disconnected from me. That word hit a nerve. Disconnected, I said. We were talking about buying a house. I was looking at rings. That made her look up. Her face crumbled in a way that almost looked genuine. Almost. I didn't know, she said. Yes, you did, I said. You knew exactly where I thought we were. She tried to explain, but everything sounded like noise. Justifications layered over betrayal. She said Ryan made her feel exciting again. That work stress pushed them together. That she never meant for it to go this far. That she was going to end it. You've been going to end it for months, I said. That's not a plan. That's an excuse. She didn't argue with that. She just cried. I asked her if Megan knew. She nodded. I asked if anyone else knew. She shook her head. I thought about all the dinners we'd had with friends, all the casual conversations, everyone unknowingly smiling at a couple that was already broken. It made me feel exposed, like a fool. What were you going to do? I asked. Just keep this going forever? No, she said quickly. I was scared. I didn't want to hurt you. I stared at her. You've been hurting me. You just didn't want to see it. That shut her up. I told her I needed space. I didn't scream. I didn't throw anything. I just said I couldn't be in the same apartment as her that night. She asked where I'd go. I said it didn't matter. She asked if this meant we were over. I didn't answer. I packed a bag in silence while she sat on the bed, watching me like I was a stranger. Every item I folded felt surreal. Socks. A hoodie she liked to steal. I left that one behind on purpose. When I walked out, she followed me to the door. Please don't do this, she said. Please don't leave like this. I turned to her, my hand on the doorknob. You left a long time ago, I said. Then I walked out.
I stayed at my friend Jake's place that night. He didn't ask many questions, just handed me a beer and let me sit on his balcony staring out at the city lights. When I finally told him what happened, he cursed under his breath and said he was sorry. That was it. No advice, no cliches. It was exactly what I needed. The next few days were a blur. Claire texted constantly. Apologies, long messages about confusion and regret. Missed calls, voicemails where her voice broke halfway through sentences. I didn't respond. I didn't block her either. I wasn't ready for that. I needed to sit with the pain, to understand it. Megan reached out too. She said she was sorry it happened this way, that she never wanted to be the reason everything exploded. I told her she wasn't, that the explosion had been inevitable. She asked if we could talk again. I said maybe, not yet. When I eventually went back to the apartment to grab more clothes, Claire wasn't there. She said she'd give me space. The apartment felt hollow, like a stage after the actors had left. Her things were everywhere, reminders I couldn't escape. A mug with a chipped handle, a throw blanket folded the way she liked it. I sat on the couch and let myself feel it fully for the first time. The anger, the sadness, the humiliation. All of it crashed over me at once.
What surprised me most was the grief. Not just for the relationship, but for the version of my life I'd believed in. The future I'd been building so carefully. It felt like someone had reached inside my chest and torn out something essential. That night, Claire showed up unannounced. I hadn't locked the door. She stood there, eyes red, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. "I can't lose you," she said. I didn't invite her in, but I didn't shut the door either. "You already did," I said. She stepped closer. "I'll do anything. Therapy. Transparency. I'll quit my job if I have to." I ended it with him. I studied her face, searching for truth. "When?" "Yesterday," she said. I nodded slowly. "That's not impressive," I said. "That's what you do when you get caught." That made her cry again. She asked if there was any chance. Any chance at all. I told her I didn't know. And that was the truth. Part of me wanted to walk away forever. Another part of me was still tangled up in years of love and shared history. But there was something else now too. Something new. Distrust. Once it's there, it changes everything. As she stood there waiting for an answer I couldn't give, I realized this wasn't just about forgiving her. It was about whether I could ever believe in her again. Whether I could live with the knowledge of what she was capable of, when she thought I'd never find out. And standing there in the doorway, with the life we'd built crumbling around us, I wasn't sure I could. The weeks after that felt like living in a fog where time didn't move normally. Days stretched too long. Nights collapsed into nothing. I split my time between Jake's couch and my own car, avoiding the apartment unless I absolutely had to go back. Claire respected my request for space, at least outwardly. The messages slowed, then stopped. That silence was almost worse than the begging.
It left room for my thoughts to run wild. I kept replaying everything, trying to pinpoint the exact moment things went wrong. Not just when she cheated, but when we stopped being honest with each other. I wondered if there was something obvious I'd missed, some sign that would have changed everything if I'd noticed sooner. But every time I went down that road, it ended in the same place. Even if I'd missed signs, even if I hadn't been perfect, I didn't deserve to be lied to like that. Knowing that didn't erase the pain, but it grounded me. Megan and I finally talked again about 2 weeks later. She asked to meet somewhere neutral, not too close to the apartment. We sat outside a small taco place in Glendale, plastic chairs, traffic humming behind us. She looked nervous, like she was bracing for anger I didn't have the energy to give. "I should have told you sooner," she said. "Maybe," I said, "but you told me eventually. That counts for something." She nodded, relieved. She admitted that her friendship with Claire was fractured now, that Claire blamed her for everything falling apart. That didn't surprise me. It felt easier to point fingers than to face the damage she'd caused herself. Megan said she didn't know if they'd recover, and for the first time I saw the cost this had taken on her too. It didn't make what happened okay, but it reminded me that fallout spreads wider than you expect. Claire reached out again a month after I moved out for good. I'd signed a short-term lease on a studio across town, a place that smelled like fresh paint and didn't carry any memories. She asked if we could talk one last time. Not to fix things, she said, just to understand them. I agreed, mostly because I needed closure more than distance at that point. We met at a park we used to go to on Sundays. Same benches, same view of the hills, completely different people. She looked thinner, tired. When she smiled, it didn't reach her eyes. "I'm not here to convince you of anything," she said quickly. I needed to say some things out loud." I listened. She talked about fear, about feeling like she was slipping into a life she wasn't ready for, about how instead of talking to me, she looked for an escape that made her feel in control. She admitted she was selfish, that she compartmentalized, that she thought she could manage it all without consequences. Hearing her say it didn't bring relief. It just confirmed what I already knew. "I loved you," she said. "I still do." I believed that she believed it, but love, I'd learned, wasn't enough to undo betrayal. "I loved you too," I said, "but I can't build a life on apologies." She nodded, tears welling but not falling this time. We hugged briefly, awkwardly, like people who used to know each other well and now didn't. When we walked away in opposite directions, I didn't look back. I didn't need to. I felt the finality in my chest. It took longer than I expected to feel normal again. I had moments where anger flared out of nowhere, moments where I missed her laugh or the way she used to steal my hoodies. But slowly those moments became less frequent. I filled my time with things that were just mine. Early morning runs, late nights writing, long drives with no destination. I rebuilt my routines piece by piece,
What stayed with me wasn't just the hurt, it was the clarity. I understood now how easily people can hide entire versions of themselves, how trust isn't just about love but about choices made when no one's watching. That understanding didn't make me bitter. If anything, it made me more careful, more honest about what I expect and what I'm willing to give. I don't hate Claire. I don't wish her anything bad. But the future I thought we were building together ended the moment the truth came out, and there was no way to salvage it without losing myself in the process. Walking away was the hardest thing I've ever done, but it was also the only choice that let me keep my dignity intact. Sometimes I still think about how close I was to proposing, how different my life could have been if Megan hadn't spoken up. That op doesn't haunt me anymore. It reminds me that the truth, even when it arrives late and messy, still matters. And in the quiet of my new place, in a life that's smaller but more honest, I've learned to trust myself again. That's the part of the future I'm finally sure about.